bookaholics, this is Isabel and welcome to another video. So today I'm going to be doing my 5 shelves wrap up. So if you haven't watched my other video, I did a 5 shelves TBR where I explained how I'm going to be doing my TBRs lately because I have way too many books on my TBR shelf. So I created a whole shelf with all my TBR and I'm going to be taking one book out of each shelf. So that's why it's called the 5 shelves TBR. For the last video, I took out the highest rated book out of each shelf. That is what I'm going to talk about today. I have 2 that I read before I started the 5 shelves TBR, so I'm going to talk about those books first, but then we're going to get into the 5 shelves wrap up. So let's just get right into it. The first book I'm going to talk about here is On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. This one I'm really happy I finally got to. It took me so long. It came out last year and I was so excited when it came out last year and then I never read it. I finally picked this one up and I really loved it. If you don't know, Angie Thomas is the one who wrote The Hate You Give, and this is her second novel. Both are fantastic. I did love The Hate You Give more than On the Come Up. They do deal with the same issues, but On the Come Up deals with more of the poverty side and getting out of that and helping your family. So The Hate You Give deals with police violence, but this one deals with the poverty side, but also has the aspects of profiling and quick violence towards Black people. I really love this one. The next book on this list is Forbidden by Tabatha Suzuma. So this one was a dicey one. I've been avoiding this and not reading it and just seeing it on my shelves for a very long time, and it was because of the topic and the content in here. This one does have incest in it. It's definitely an uncomfortable book, but so many people had such high praise about it, that it was very emotional, that they were heartbroken, and it was just such a great book. Had really high expectations and it didn't meet it. It didn't hit me the way it seems like it hit other people. I think part of it was the writing. Part of it was that it just came out of nowhere. I'm not too sure because they didn't really go into the past. Like, I feel like if it went into the past as they were growing up, as they were kids, and just the evolution of the relationship once the father leaves and the mother is an alcoholic and starts going out and leaving the family essentially to their care, I think it would have created more of an emotional attachment, but they didn't do that, and it just kind of followed after they were already in that spot. It was just the catalyst that led to it, but it wasn't the background. And I think if they had the background in here and they had just the past of how they became partners in taking care of their siblings and getting closer and closer in that aspect, I think I would have not got behind it, but would have understood why. But I didn't understand it. It just seemed to come out of nowhere. I still enjoyed watching the characters as their relationship developed in that way, but I didn't get attached to them as some other readers did. It just wasn't what I was expecting, and it just kind of disappointed me. Alright, so now we're gonna get into wrapping up my 5 shelves TBR. This first one I'm going to talk about is probably an unpopular opinion because out of all the 127 books, this was still the highest rated book, and it is my lowest rating out of all 5 of these. So that was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. In my opinion, I'm not too sure why this series had so much hype. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses back in 2017. I did enjoy that book, but it's been 3 years since I read that, and my reading tastes have changed since then. I've been rating books a lot harder than I used to. I just have a lot higher expectations, and this one I did have pretty high expectations. That might be why I was very underwhelmed by this and was pretty disappointed because it is the highest rated book on my shelves, and a lot of people were praising it, and so many people were talking about it and saying it was the best book ever, and I don't see it. For one, this book had barely anything go on in it. Like, the most action that happened in this book was the last few pages. If I wasn't reading the audiobook, I don't think I would have finished this. I got bored. I was just letting the audiobook play, and sometimes I missed things, and I just didn't care because most of the book, there was nothing really going on. It was more creating this relationship between Rysand and I forgot her name. Rysand and Feyre. Just building that relationship between those two. I really hate Tamlin. Like, in this book, I really hated him. I did like him in A Court of Thorns and Roses, but in this one, he was so possessive and so obsessive and was just very, very controlling, and I hated him. But at the same time, Raisin was better. I did like Feyre with him more, but he still was not my favorite. So many people just love Feyre and Raisin together and just their one true pair, and I can see it, but at the same time, I just don't, because he is also not abusive in the same way as Tamlin, but he is just very manipulative. I just feel in the grand scheme of things, he could have been honest. He could have just not played games, and he could have just told Feyre right up what was going on and just explain things, but he just didn't. And it was just them playing games, and I just didn't really care for it, and this book just kind of bored me, and I was just so happy when it was done. The ending was very, very good. I really did enjoy that. It really hooked me, but that was like after so many hours of just being plain bored. It definitely did not hit my expectation. A lot of people said this book was the best out of all three, so I'm not too sure what to expect for Court of Wings and Ruins, but at the same time I am curious. But it really did not need to be this long. So the next book I'm going to talk about is The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult. The Storyteller follows 4 different characters. 2 of these take place in the present time, and 2 of them take place in the past during World War II. It follows a girl named Sage who meets this guy at a grieving support group, and they start to build a friendship. When they start to build a trust, he asks Sage to kill him. This is when it's brought up that he used to be a Nazi soldier. And Sage is the daughter of a Jewish family. So this brings up big issues in here. It essentially follows Sage as she's trying to process this, but then it also follows his story as being a Nazi soldier, and then it also follows Sage's grandmother, who was a victim in the Holocaust, and then it also follows a boy named Leo, who is essentially a Nazi hunter. He is part of the government, and they look for the Nazi soldiers who were part of this crime during World War II. So that's what this book follows. It's very, very intense. Honestly, probably the most engaged I was in this book was when it followed both Joseph and Sage's grandmother. Those were the most engaging. It was intense. It was very hard to read, and I really enjoyed it. The next book is Far from the Tree by Robin Benway. This book deals with a lot of sensitive issues as well. It deals with teen pregnancy, adoption, and foster care. And essentially this book follows 3 characters. They are all siblings, but they have never met before. Grace was adopted when she was a baby, Maya was adopted when she was a baby, and Joaquin is in foster care. When Grace gets pregnant, she decides to give her daughter out for adoption, but this just opens up her big desire to meet her birth mother. This leads to her finding out that she has 2 siblings. She finds a way to contact them, they meet each other, and it just goes through as they start to build a relationship. This deals with a lot of issues, and it deals with them so well. I absolutely loved it, and I cannot recommend it enough. I definitely can see why this was rated so highly, because it does deal with those issues, and it does have a lot to say on accepting who you are at the same time of accepting who your family is. Just being there for whoever your family is, no matter if you just met them or if you've known them for all your life or if you've never known them at all. Just appreciating them for what they are. It's just a very, very good book, and I don't know what else to say. I just know that I loved it. My second highest rating book on this list is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. In the same sense as Moxie, like Moxie made me so pissed off and so angry, and I loved it. This one made me so pissed off and angry, and I loved it. I can definitely see why it's a higher rated book, because it deals with very sensitive issues as well. It deals with rape culture, it deals with sexism, and it deals with the patriarchy. It just made me so mad in aspects, and it made me so happy in others. I know rape culture and patriarchy and sexism is a very, very long road, but I'm really happy that it's being talked about in YA books. We just need more of them. We do. We need to really make our voice heard, and I'm really glad voices are being heard, that they're being delivered in these ways. This definitely should be in curriculums for teenagers. Like, it deals with those issues. It really opens up your mind and really makes you think. So I feel like that would be great for any high school kids to read. The last book is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. I'm very happy that I finally picked this up, but I'm honestly kind of disappointed that it took me so long to pick it up because it is such a serious book. It also deals with World War II. The narrator of this book is essentially death. He follows a girl named Liesel and her birth mother. She has to give her out to foster care and give her to this foster family because it's no longer safe for Liesel and her brother. But on the train ride towards the foster family she's gonna live with, her brother dies, and this is when death starts following her life, and we start following as World War II starts to become more and more serious and it's starting to get into her life. It's just such an emotional book, and it's such a powerful book, and it's just written so well. Like, it's such a poetic book. I don't know what else I want to say about this because there's a lot that goes on in here, and I feel like you definitely should just go in as blind as possible and just read it. Just know it is in World War II. It does deal with serious issues. You really need to be prepared to just bawl your eyes out, because I did. It was such a great book, and I definitely see why it's still so highly rated, even though there's almost 2 million reviews. I would highly recommend this, and it is definitely a high rated book for me because it's just amazing, and it's definitely way better than A Court of Mist and Fury, which is higher rated than this book, which makes no sense to me, but it's okay. So those are all the books I'm gonna wrap up in this video. I'm hoping you guys enjoyed it, and sorry I have a hard time with words in this video today. I don't know why. I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you agree with my ratings in any of these. Comment down below if you disagree with my ratings. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye!